faced with a new position, he goes c4 and he pushes his pawn forward. This doesn't open up any of the diagonals in fact here, but it's interesting. He's pushed it forward. Let's see what Hikaru comes up with now. The main thing here is that if you push your b pawn, he goes c5. And yeah, that's the main point here, that if you go b6, I have g3 directly attacking. The bishop is guarded, so I don't have to worry too much about it. Magnus plays his knight to c3. The knight comes out, controls an important central square. And Hikaru brings his knight out to c6 as well. So he's just following what Magnus has done here. 2 moves in, knight to f3 by Magnus. Now he's eyeing the d4 move. And you can't really stop it with g6 because I have d4, pawn takes, and there's this check intermezzo, which is a little bit irritating. So what Hikaru does, he plays e5 to stop d4 instantly. In that, he weakens the d5 square, but that's similar to the Botvinnik setup in the English. And Magnus goes b4. What a move by Magnus. If you take here, he wants to go knight d5 and then open up with d4. Or if you take with the knight, he wants to take the pawn in the center. So very daring and very interesting move that just opens up the game to a whole new level of possibilities. Hikaru takes with the knight. He does not like pawn takes, which is understandable. But now Magnus can chop off the pawn. He takes the pawn in the center, and that's a very good development there for Magnus. He got a central pawn for a side pawn, but the bishop opens up, attacking the knight. Look at this, going all the way to the queen. Now, you could come back simply and have a very small edge, but Magnus wants more. He goes d4. And to understand this, after here, check. Bishop takes here, or just directly going queen c1, knight d4 and knight d5. This is excellent compensation, is amazing understanding by Magnus. Hikaru doesn't fall for knight c2, which is a bad move. He castles so that bishop h6 check is no longer possible. Knight to g4, another amazing move, threatening a check, opening up this diagonal. Too much of pressure, and if you take here, I'm sure that rook takes d4, pawn takes, knight d5 is a killer blow. So Hikaru just plays bishop to g7, making square for the king here. The best move now is bishop h6. Beautiful move, and it gets rid of this very important defender here. But Magnus thinks for 10 minutes and then takes the pawn on c5. Maybe not the best, but it's a playable move. It might very well be the second best move in the position after bishop h6, and he takes it. He's now a pawn up. And Hikaru now, what does he do? Let's see. He's thinking here, and he pushes his pawn to d5. I love how Hikaru is playing this. He attacks the knight, which is undefended. And this is a very good central move, because Magnus played moves like b4. He isn't fully developed. Knight check, king goes to h8. Yeah, it's clear you don't want to give up your bishop for this knight. It just helps white. So king h8 makes a lot of sense. And now you want to win material here, but there is rook d5. Knight cannot move. This is pinned, and if you take with the rook, I have knight d5 and black is doing very well. So Magnus goes g4 even. There's a pin here, but also remember there's a pin here. The rook is hanging and he's putting more pressure on the d5 point. Hikaru can push the pawn forward, but he goes for bishop e6. I love it. Look how he's defended the rook. He's brought his bishop out. The pressure on d5 is intense. There are 3 attackers, in fact 4. And there are 3 defenders, but there's a pin here, and that works out for black. Magnus takes the pawn on d5. He takes it here, and now in a way he is winning material, but it's not enough because this pin doesn't help him to. I wonder how stressed Magnus would be. By the way, the best move here was queen b2. The idea being at some point you want to sack this, and when he takes, there's a counter check. It's a very deep move, And Magnus did think a very long time, close to 22 minutes for that move, but couldn't find queen b2. He played cd5. Now knight takes d5. There's a pin here. So again, I guess bishop b2 is what you want to do, or you want to play bishop d5. Bishop d5. It's a tough position. Hikaru has come back in the game. He takes with his bishop. And I believe you can take both with the rook and the bishop. Taking with the rook might be interesting as well. Hikaru has played this pretty well until now. He's just played on pure common sense central moves, while Magnus has been the one who's trying to be very creative here. And now it's very important to break this pin. So bishop b2 on the board. Notice how bishop takes knight doesn't work because I take the bishop and give you a check. So maybe bishop moving back is the best option here. Yes, he goes bishop e6. Let's take stock of the situation right now. We have white who has an extra pawn. Time wise, Magnus has 22 minutes. g5 is a good move defending the knight. Hikaru has 28 minutes. The position is very intense, worthy of a finals, I would say, clearly. Hikaru chops off the rook. Rook takes d1. And let's see what Magnus responds back with. He also takes the rook with the queen, not the knight here. So queen takes d1 on the board. And now Hikaru needs to figure out what to do with his queen. It hasn't been very active on a8. So he brings the queen to c8, putting pressure on the c5 pawn. The best move now. Now, it's not so easy to defend this pawn. You can't get your queen here, here, or here. So he goes rook g3. Again, finds the best move. That's the thing about Magnus. He's able to find some brilliant moves. But can Hikaru simply snatch the pawn and restore material balance? I believe he can. And one of the things that yes, he's taking it. He takes it. Black's position looks really good. But on the other hand, white's position is very, very interesting because the pieces are so amazingly placed. And look at this move. Knight to e4. Love it. Attacking the queen, opening up the bishop against the bishop. Ready to sink in a knight to f6 if need be. And for Hikaru now, a tough moment. Does he play queen c6, keeping the queens on the board? He goes queen d5. He's like, I don't want to trade queens. I mean, I want to trade queens. So now for Magnus, taking on d5 is possible. He does it. Bishop takes. The knight is hanging. You can take here. Knight c3 is a little difficult move to make. It attacks the bishop. So he goes knight f6. It's a very interesting choice here. If you take on f6, I go bishop f6, pawn takes f6, and this king somehow cannot come out. It's a very tough moment for Hikaru to decide whether to take the knight or not. He could have taken, by the way, but he decides to take bishop a2, which is also interesting. Now, if you see, Hikaru is a pawn up. From Magnus being pawn up, Hikaru has managed to snatch 2 pawns, and he's telling Magnus that, hey, I'm just fine here completely. What's your plan? Also, the bishop defends this, so knight e8, rook e8, there's no check. Magnus goes rook e3. He attacks a2 and also attacks the a7 pawn. Maybe the best move in the position. I think Hikaru can go bishop c4. A very subtle move. But instead he goes bishop e6. And maybe it's the time that is creating this kind of moves which are, it's very natural to go back here. But bishop c4 had its advantages. It was attacking e2. It could also go back and settle down here. So bishop e6. And Magnus takes the pawn. Knight comes out to d6. Very interesting position. The knight has defended the pawn on b7. The material is equal, but you can see this pawn is weak. f3 looks like a great move, and Magnus finds it. I can't believe how he finds such moves. f3, incredible move. And maybe he's planning to go e4 to limit the knight even further. Rook c8 played here by Hikaru. And the best move here is e4. The main point being that you stop knight to f5, trading a few more pieces. And then white's advantage is very serious. But he goes bishop e5. And perhaps this is not the most ideal move, because it is attacking the knight, but the knight can come to f5, offering itself for a trade. And what we are going to get into is an opposite colored bishop position. Because think about it, this knight can get traded for this knight, this bishop can get traded for this knight, and then you have the light squared bishop and dark squared. Good move here by Hikaru, knight f5. And I think this game has been so worthy of a finals. Like, Magnus's creative energy has met with Hikaru's stiff resistance, tenacity. Knight takes f5. Now the best move, believe it or not, is g takes f5. It creates some breathing space for the king. After h6 you take, and then the king can come up to g6. It's very, very unusual move, very difficult to make, but a very powerful move. Also after gf5, the bishop is well placed defending the pawn, but Hikaru makes an error. He takes it with the bishop, and this allows Magnus again a big advantage. He takes the pawn, attacks f7. So I guess Hikaru has to come back here to e6. He does come back to e6. And white is seriously better here, but how to convert it is not so trivial. I guess Magnus has many options. Like, look at this, rook b4 to h4, e4, f4, f5 somehow if he can get in, h4, h5 if he can get in, rook b4 he plays. He wants to get here, he wants to checkmate black. I guess the simplest is to just take the knight and hope that this endgame, opposite colored bishop endgame, is a draw. So Hikaru takes the knight, bishop takes f6. You're going to take back with the bishop. Yes, check, king g8. Now the king is a bit blocked up. You cannot come up. There are also threats of back rank mate. But the thing is, black doesn't have to do much. He can just keep waiting. King f2. Magnus is like a super dangerous opponent in such positions, because he has this ability to schematically think, to know where the pieces belong. Rook c5 played by Hikaru. And Hikaru is saying, look, I'm going to try and keep my rook active here so that you don't get f5 so easily. And if you give me a check, I'll just simply go back. That's my plan. So goes king to g3. And now Hikaru can just wait, but instead he tries to get more active. And perhaps this is not a great idea, because h6, now Magnus has bigger advantage after taking the pawn. He takes it, of course. King h7. So now the king has more space. It's also attacking the pawn somehow. But bishop g7, a very key move that Magnus has to find to keep that pawn. It would be a very, very useful pawn. Yes, he plays it. And the thing is, after rook b8, maybe if I can get rook h8, it's just curtains. But Hikaru finds this another beautiful move, g5. He's going king g6. He's trying to be active. He's keeping his king active. He's also stopping the h-pawn from moving. He's also tied up the bishop. And Magnus goes e4, which is perhaps not the best move. The best is to maybe go rook b7 first. The reason why e4 is not great, because now black gets f5. It's a very powerful move, and let's see if Hikaru finds it. Black gets back into the game now. If Hikaru manages to find f5, he will be back, but he has just 5 minutes left. The time is ticking down. Magnus has 4 minutes 40 seconds, and Hikaru finds it. Beautiful. It's for a reason that he's known as one of the best defenders in the world. If you take now, there's bishop f5, rook f5, and black is okay. So he goes rook b7, creating this very nasty threats down the 7th rank. But now f4, it's time for a check. The king can't move up or here, so the king has to go back. Black is gaining space. Magnus comes back with the king. Of course, it's a risky move. Of course, you have now fixed your 2 pawns on dark square, so the bishop can later take it. But on the other hand, you now have to take the pawn on h2. There is no other way. You take here, he moves his bishop away, you come here, the pawn is not moving forward anywhere. If check, I mean, you could even take this. If you take this, there's rook b6. So first king g6, and then here, and then take it. But let's go back. He goes bishop a2, a huge blunder. The only move was to take. I don't know what did Hikaru think here. I guess he thought bishop goes back, he'll take the pawn. The bishop is out now from the pin here. But what he has missed is bishop f8 check. Keeping control of this. Oh my goodness, he's missed something huge. He's missed something huge here. Bishop f8 and Magnus is completely winning. There were so many topsy-turvy moments here, but this seems like the final one. A check, and notice Hikaru's expressions now. Check. He's a bit shocked, firstly. He's unhappy. And look at him shaking his head. He's like, oh my god, I've made such a huge blunder because I can't go up. King g6. There's just a check. And then the pawn simply queens. And if I move my king back, it's also losing. He resigns, directly resigns. And Magnus instantly tells him, instead of bishop a2, why didn't you take rook h2? And look at